owner of the AWF, Call Superstar, 11-time tag team champion of the world. This egotistical bastard is ready to shoot the shit as Shawn Walsh presents The Shawn Walsh Show, where there is no holds barred.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shawn Walsh Show. And we got a different episode for you guys today. You know, we've had a lot of big guests on the show. And it's not to say that there are little guests on the show, but it certainly isn't a name that some of you are that familiar with. My guest today being ECW's own Ryan Paul Jones. And no, it's not ECW Extreme Call Wrestling. Although, maybe that could happen one day in the future. Wink, wink. But Ryan Paul Jones looking to get the name out there for ECW and looking to respond to Brandon Wolf's comments on the Shawn Walsh Show 2 weeks ago. So, I've always been a firm believer that there's three sides to the story. So let's say two, but there's three sides to the story. There's one person's side, there's the other person's side, and then there's the truth. It's going to be very hard to find out the truth, but we can get 2/3 of those sides out. We got Brandon Wolf's side of the story, and now we are going to get Ryan's side of the story. And that's the fair way of doing things. I've always been like that. I've always wanted both sides to get their side of the story out there. It's a much more fair way of doing things. So there's that. Also, we talk about ECW and the things they do, and we talk about some of the guys there, and it's really interesting. There's a lot of guys there that aren't really too well known to, I guess you could say, my viewers, but are pretty good. So you should probably check them out. They could be a person of interest in the future here in Call Wrestling, so you might want to look for that. I talk about Ryan Paul Jones. Why isn't he in COH? He's been on the COH page. He's been on all these call pages and everything for a long, long time and hasn't joined COH. He explains why, and he explains if he ever would. We also find out some interesting information about someone we know here in Call Wrestling, someone who currently is in Call of Honor, someone who is on all these call pages, so I'm pretty sure you know who he is. We find out some interesting information. I'm not saying it's necessarily full on to the extent that is discussed, but I'll save it for later. It's very controversial. For some people, they may not be too bothered by that. Some people may be extremely bothered by what they find out. It may change the perception you have of this person. So, either look forward to that or prepare for that. So there's that. Also, there's some big news here in Call Wrestling. That is that Nate the Great has left COH. And it's very unfortunate. There's a lot of circumstances that led to this. And I'm going to very briefly talk about it. And I'm going to explain in a minute why I briefly talk about it. Right now, essentially, Nate went up against the Goonie at the COH Outbreak show to crown the global champion. And the Goonie is your new global heavyweight champion. So everyone's happy, right? Not exactly. And it's not even because Goonie won, per se, but it's because of what happened in the aftermath of the match. After the match, the Eradication, led by Accuracy, came down to the ring and they attacked Nate the Great. And Accuracy picked up the microphone, told Goonie, "You're not going anywhere." He said, "I fucked with you, I fucked with Nate the Great, and he never overcame the ending of the OBN. He never overcame that. But you overcame what I did to you. And look at you now. You are the World Heavyweight Champion." And then he gave Goonie a big proposal. He said, "I want you to join the Eradication. I want you to be the co-leader with me. Me and you together, we can't be stopped. So why don't you join the Eradication?" And Goonie responded to that by fighting off the Eradication and then shaking hands with Nate the Great at the end of the show, symbolizing that the Goonie is back. The Gooniverse is back. 420 Goonie, whatever, is now a babyface again. So everyone's all happy, right? Again, not quite. Not quite. So, why aren't people happy? What the hell? Well, that is because the events that took place after the match were not discussed with one Nate the Great. So I'm going to clear up right now that the whole idea and theory that Nate is frustrated over losing to Goonie is not the problem. Nate has no issue losing to Goonie. It's up for debate who should have won the match, but Nate isn't mad about that. He said he'd put over Goonie whenever, and Goonie would put him over. It's not that. So it has nothing to do with that. So don't go and put that on Nate for being mad over losing a match and call, or don't go put that on Goonie for, "Oh, look at he couldn't put you over." It had nothing to do with that. So stop it. Just cut that stuff out. But something did happen. At the end of the match, with all that stuff, Nate was not told about this. Nate had no clue that the Eradication would be coming down to the ring, and he would and the Eradication would be attacking him. He had no clue that Accuracy would be cutting that promo. He took the words of Accuracy as a shot towards him, and the OBN and the mention of the OBN and such. And Nate became very frustrated with that and saw how everyone in that segment got over in some kind of way. And he did not. He didn't get over at all, besides he shook Goonie's hand. And then also the whole that he can't get over that Steve or Accuracy is always in the main event picture, and blah blah blah. I'm not going to go too much into that because somebody else will be. That being Nate himself. Because next week on the Shawn Walsh Show, we are going to hear from Nate the Great, Bully Nate, whatever you want to call him. He's going to be on the show, and he's going to be talking about Outbreak and all these other things. One of those being that he is no longer a part of the Call of Honor roster. Nate decided to retire, to quit, to leave, whatever word you want to use, from COH. And it sucks, but Nate made that decision, and he has his reasons for it. He's going to explain them on the show next week. And the thing is, too, I'm just going to put this out here. I know this is a big situation, and Nate is going to address this situation. He will. He's going to talk about Outbreak and all that. But give Nate the questions he deserves. And what I mean by that is Nate has done a lot here in Call Wrestling. Believe me, I know. I've been around here almost as long as he has. He's been around here a little bit longer than me, but I'm one of the few that have been around almost as long as him. He has done a lot here in Call. Whether it be the old DWF Alliance days, whether it be the old WCW days, and I'm not talking about the reincarnated WCW, I'm talking about the original WCW, and there's also the reincarnated WCW, there's also CWS, the original, there's the current reincarnated CWS. He's been in YWF, he's been in DZW, he's been in AWF, he's been in a lot of places. His COH career spans more than just Outbreak 3, by the way. So ask him about the Vicious Bullies. Ask him what he thinks about Angry Mark. Ask him what he thinks about all that. Ask him what he thinks about becoming COH World Champion. Ask him about the One Bully Nation and how that came to be. A lot of things have been said about the OBN. A lot. Good and bad. Nate hasn't really had the chance, or in at least a public forum, to address the OBN, the good and the bad of the OBN. Now he's going to get that chance. And if you have a question about it, and especially a specific question, please send that to me. AskFM/Shawn Walsh 105. Because he'll answer that question. And then after the OBN, he'll talk about all that stuff. That feud with the Alex Enterprise that led to Ultimate Glory, and then coming back as Nate the Great at Ready to Rumble. And if anyone remembers, Nate had some frustrations going into the build of Ultimate Glory. Ask him about that. He's talked about it a little bit on Ask FM, but now he's got the floor. He's got the time to address all that. Ask him about this feud with the Goonie. It's going to be really interesting. Ask him about all these things. There's so much that I've just didn't even mention, so much that I've probably even forgotten. There's so much that you can ask Nate, so ask him this stuff. Don't just focus it on what happened at Outbreak. Yes, ask about Outbreak. People have already asked about it. But remember, give Nate the questions he deserves. I know I am. So I hope that all of you do the same and understand and respect that this guy has done a lot. And he deserves to talk about all these other things. Nate's done a lot of good things here in Call. He's done some bad things in Call too, but you know what? That's all of us. He's not going to hide away from him like anyone else is. So don't focus on just the one show. But Nate's going to be on the show next week to go talk about all that stuff. It's going to be a really fun show. I expect it to be also a long show too, because like I keep saying, Nate has had a very long career, quote unquote, a very long run here in Call Wrestling. So yeah, that should be a very lengthy show. So prepare for that. Let's see. Also, I'm going to offer my opinion here on this situation. And see, it's not even really the Nate situation. Like, yes, I kind of talked about that. Like, I see where Nate's coming from with all that stuff, and I understand it. I wish he didn't quit or retire. I don't know what word he prefers or what's more appropriate, but either way, I wish he didn't leave. I wish Nate stayed. I understand his frustration though with not knowing what happened afterwards. Like that would make me mad if I wasn't told what was going to be happening afterwards. Also, all this hate doesn't necessarily deserve to be thrown all at Steve, because Steve simply did what he was told to do. So all these things are a really huge lack of communication, and I'm hoping in the long run helps COH it, and that this doesn't happen again. That everyone knows what's going on and everyone's okay with what's going on, and we don't have to have this issue, you know. And hopefully in the future Nate does come back. And I'm sure he'll answer if he will or won't in the show next week. But what I wanted to offer my opinion on was like the storyline that's taking place here in Switch, not the out of character stuff, but the storyline stuff. See, it's been often a debate for a while who should be the first global champion. Should it be Nate the Great? Should it be the Goonie? And I think both sides offered very valid points. And I've even been quoted on saying in Skype calls, if you've been in them with me, that I could see either one winning. Both have a claim to win. They both make sense to be the first global champion. But with the Goonie winning the World Heavyweight Championship, it makes so much sense for him to turn back to being a babyface, which is what he did, right? Because he got what he was looking to do. He reclaimed his glory. He got it. But why do it now? I feel that it was a mistake to give Goonie the championship already. Goonie had to win the championship in the end, obviously. But I've been one of the biggest critics of Goonie turning heel randomly. But as the weeks went on, I really thought Goonie's been doing a good job with it, and I really looked forward to his promos. I mean, I look forward to all Goonie's promos, but he was just doing really good with it, and he was doing the best he could. And I really started to feel that he was just starting to come in on his own as a heel. I really thought that he was finally getting that character, and that character is really starting to pick up some steam. And then he's a babyface again. And what's the logic behind it? Like, what's besides the Goonie wins the title, he's a babyface. What is the logic behind Goonie all of a sudden being like, oh, even though for the last few months I've said I don't need the Gooniverse and I don't need the people don't support me, to being like, oh yeah, I love you guys. Sorry about the last couple months. Don't worry about it. I just wasn't in the right frame of mind. Don't worry about it. I'm the champ again. Yay. The only logic that can be used is, well, he's fighting the eradication. The crowd doesn't like the eradication. But why would Goonie go to the support of the fans again? He told the fans that he didn't need them. And guess what? He proved them right. He didn't need them, and he won the world title. See, what I would have done if I would have booked this is I would have had Nate win. And Goonie would have had his first taste of true failure since turning heel. Yes, I know he didn't win at Ultimate Glory, but he was still on top, and he just turned heel. So that doesn't even really count. Goonie would have had this taste of failure, and he would have seen that now, even without the people, he doesn't have the title. And you could examine that story. You could go to that story for weeks of Goonie building up to his big rematch with Nate the Great. Because obviously Nate the Great would give him a rematch. And you would start to see little signs of Goonie, like, well, beforehand, if Goonie would lose, Goonie would have the people. But now, Goonie doesn't have the belt or the people. And you could see where Goonie would start to realize his wrongdoings. And then, when Goonie would go on to beat Nate the Great, which would be an even bigger moment, Goonie would be world champion, and then he would embrace the crowd, and the crowd would embrace him, because he would realize that it's not that he didn't need the people, but it's just a case of hard times. And now when things are back on track, he wants the people to be on his side. He wants the Gooniverse back. And then that's when you bring out inaccuracy. What happened at Outbreak should have happened at When Worlds Collide, or one of those shows. Then I think that's the next CPV. That's when that should happen. Outbreak should have been Nate winning. When Worlds Collide, that's when Goonie should have beaten Nate for the championship. And then Accuracy and Eradication come out. And then that leads to what happened and him overcoming his demons and all that kinds of stuff and redeeming himself. And then that's when you start the whole Goonie and Accuracy continuation of the feud. You maybe started off with Goonie and Nate versus Accuracy and the Eradication, especially when it be in a Worlds Collide kind of situation. You could do that. Well, the following. You could do that. You do like a tag team thing, and maybe even if the Eradication has a tag team titles at that point, you could have Call's Greatest Tag Team fight the tag team champs. And then that could lead to the conclusion of Goonie and Accuracy, where Goonie would then defeat Accuracy to keep the global championship. That's how I would have done it. That's how I would have done it. I think it would have made much more sense. And I think a lot of people would have been much more pleased with that result. So, yeah. And I know there's been some people who are like, Goonie had to win. No, Goonie could have won, and he did, but he didn't have to win. I think this would have been much better, but that's just my opinion. But now with Nate being gone, he's left COH. There's clearly a big void over on the Battleground roster. Like, you look, who are the top people on Battleground? There's the Goonie, and there's Accuracy. That's it. Nate's gone. Kenyon Phoenix is currently written out. So you have 2 guys. That's about it. Which means, talent on Battleground not only needs to step it up, but they need to be pushed to that spot. Guys like J-Crack and Fisk, their feud needs to be elevated because of the situation. And they need to, and I know these guys very, very well, Jay and Andrew. They're going to take the ball and they're going to run with it. So there's no concern there about those guys doing it. They're going to do a hell of a job. But they need to be treated like these upper mid card, almost main event guys. And then that goes the same. Maybe that it's almost like, what do you do with Ultimate Nitro now? Do you elevate Nitro early, or do you perhaps bring someone over from the Slam roster? And I actually think that'd be a good idea, to bring someone over from Slam, from their main event scene or upper mid card scene, over to Battleground. They need to. Because even just look at the current storyline with the Eradication versus Goonie. It's the Eradication versus Goonie. Goonie's by himself. He was supposed to have Nate by his side, but clearly that's not going to be happening now. Goonie needs someone by his side. He can't have Jay or Fisk because they're feuding with each other. Nitro has his feud with Stefan Guerrero. So who's going to be his tag team partner? I know Brandon Wolf had that match with in the chamber and stuff like that, but you need a top guy. No offense to Wolf, and Wolf is probably more along the lines of like the Night Wolves going after the Eradication or something like that. You need someone who's a top guy, and that top guy can be, in my opinion, one of 2 people. It can either be Kevin Cross, although with his recent status, it looks like that he may be going after the tag team titles with Morris still, so that might not be happening. And then there's AJ Young, which actually makes the most sense, because AJ Young was just recently written out with his match with Caleb Blair. He hasn't been seen in COH since. Honestly, probably the closest you'll get to a substitution for Nate the Great would probably be sending AJ Young to Battleground. That's just my opinion. I hope it happens. I really do, because AJ deserves a top spot like that, and Battleground could really use a guy like AJ right now. And Kevin works too, but I'm giving my vote to AJ, so we'll see what happens. But that's all of me talking about all this stuff until next week when I talk with Nate. For now, let's go send it to ECW Zone Ryan Paul Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shawn Walsh Show. And today we are joined with a very special guest, the owner of ECW, Ryan Paul Jones. How you doing?
Oh, doing good. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you on. Now, there has been some things that have been said between yourself and the previous guest, Brandon Wolf, but I'm sure we'll get to that in a little bit. That I know he said on the show that you want to address. But before we get into that, let's talk about all the fun stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
So, call wrestling, we all do it, we all love it. How did you get in the call? What did you see that caught your interest?
Well, my story, I guess, with call, and I'm glad you asked this because I've listened to the Shawn Walsh Show. Listened to most, I think, the first season, and I know you should ask everybody this on the show. Mm-hmm. My story with it is a little different, I guess, because I noticed. I guess as far as like the bigger, what I would refer to as the multiverse of Caw is a little bit different. It seems like a really tight-knit group of friends that just is, I guess, kind of global at this point. And, as far as that goes, like COH and DZW and, all the different feds that are out there, I guess you could say I'm pretty new to that. As far as our group, El Dorado Championship Wrestling, or ECW for short, we just started a little bit after 2K14 came out, probably around like November, December, I think it was when I finally got my copy of it. So I started looking around Facebook and looking around different groups, different message boards and stuff, just to kind of try to recruit people as we went. And that's when I started discovering things like Call All Stars and COH and really just kind of, like I said, noticing that, that all of you guys are really well interconnected, and it just really intrigued me to kind of find out more about it, even if I guess I haven't been maybe totally vocal and outgoing as some, but just, it's really fascinating. As far as like creating wrestlers and Call and all that stuff goes, I can remember as far back as to like playing the original SmackDown games on PS1 and some of the like NWO, WCW Revenge games like on Nintendo 64 as well. So, I've been doing it for a while, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah, some old games though.
Definitely.
But yeah, it was the new game. So, shows that you watch, I guess would be like shows you named like Call All Stars, COH, DZW, and such. So, like, what do you like about those shows?
I guess I'll talk probably more about COH because that's the one I think I've probably watched the majority of. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm kind of, I guess it's not really much of an excuse, but I don't have home internet, so I have to watch everything on my phone for my data plan. But I try to watch what I can when I can, usually like on breaks at work and things like that. Really the main thing, first and foremost, I guess with anything good in wrestling, I really, when I talk to the guys in my group who aren't watching other Call shows, I really talk highly about, the characters in COH that I see that really stand out, the storylines that really hook me, the good promos that go with it. And one of the things that just, it still kind of blows my mind because I'm still learning editing and stuff. I'm teaching myself as I go. The video editing, like the packages and stuff and the intros and all of that is always just done like so well in each of these groups. Like, it took me a couple days to watch it, but I was just like absolutely fascinated with Ultimate Glory 4.
It was quite the show.
Now, with Ultimate Glory 4, like, what were some of your favorite moments from Ultimate Glory 4? That was just a phenomenal show.
Honestly, I think something that is worth anybody who hasn't seen it, or anybody who was looking to get into Call and wants to see kind of what it's all about, even if you don't know the story, because I didn't watch COH a couple years ago or a few years ago whenever it started, but like I said, as I kind of come to understand it and become more of a fan of it, just the package and the build up that they showed for the Alex Enterprise Inaccuracy match, that package alone was just like phenomenal.
Oh, it was great. It recapped everything up there. It was just really cool show. Also, one that you mentioned that just came out is Call All Stars. First of all, have you seen Call All Stars?
Actually, I haven't. I was listening to, I guess, your last episode where you guys were recapping it. I was listening to that on the way to work today, and I listened to it when I was getting started today. And I am going to go back and watch it here, hopefully in the next couple of days. The main thing that really seemed like it stuck out to me, the Gettys in a Hitman match really sounds like it's worth seeing. I mean, the whole show is going to be worth seeing, but the way that was talked about, and I was really interested to see, how it went to the backstage segment and everything else that went along with it. It sounds like it was a hell of a match.
It was one hell of a match. A lot of people like it, and hopefully you as well. Also, have you heard or seen anything about this Call All Stars tournament that is taking place, this Kingdom of Call tournament currently?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as stuff like that goes, I am in, I guess, like a couple of the groups, like the Video Game Wrestling Network. I know that's a really big one. Mm-hmm. And since I think you and I are friends on Facebook, I see a lot of the posts and stuff like that. I remember, I think when you made the original announcement about it, it looks pretty huge.
Yeah, 64 people.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's going to be a lot of work, 64 people.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a lot of work. I don't know if you looked at it enough or know enough people on there, but do you have and perhaps an early prediction who could win the thing?
Give me a couple names. I don't think I got a good look at the bracket. Like I said, I've seen a couple of announcements, and I guess I probably should have looked at it more ahead of time. But if you give me just a couple names off the top of your head, I could probably give you a prediction back pretty quick off of that.
All right. Well, Laguni is in it, representing COH. There's Casey Gordon. He's representing DCA. The Great D. He's representing CCL. Ben Hitman's in there representing the AWF. Drew Colors, DZW. Who else in here? We got Seth McInerney of YWF. Aaron Alexander. Timmy Turner. Fisk. Kevin Owens. John Cena, believe it or not. Brent Thompson. TGO. Bowser, Haru Glory, Frankie G, Sean Stevens, not the DZW one, different one. The Amazing AJ, Hercules, J-Crack, AJ Styles, the Green Ranger, just to name some.
Okay. Well, I would feel a little biased being, especially like with his current stuff. I really want to kind of lean toward like Goonie would have a really good shot at it. I'd say Drew Cutler wouldn't be a bad pick, but I don't know. I really want to lean towards Fisk for some reason. I feel like Fisk he just continues to get more popular in COH, and seems like he's moving on past the championship that he held.
Yeah, Fisk. He's like you said, he's been getting pretty popular, so he certainly has a shot. Everyone has a shot. We'll see what happens. It's going to be huge, whoever does win. But all these shows, all these guys put in a lot of work and do all this stuff. Just like yourself, you have ECW. Now, I'm not very familiar with ECW, but I do know a little bit. One thing that that strikes out to me is some of the earlier shows, like from earlier this year or even last year, I noticed that they're captured differently from how they are now. Why is that?
Okay. I figured this was something that would come up, and I'm glad it did, because I'm sure we'll get more to some of Brandon's comments later. But one of the things that was mentioned was the capturing process, and I know you're very familiar with capturing, probably even more than I am, because it's something that I'm still actually pretty new to. It's something that I was always kind of interested in before, but as far as breaking into this was my first real experience with it. I actually used a completely different setup when I had Xbox 360 on 2K14 early, and I know this is like I guess kind of a big cost in, so forgive me for this. Early on, before we got to anywhere close to where we were now, it started off just as kind of a fun little thing between a couple friends. I posted a couple pictures of a friend that I made, kind of in a jokingly reference on Facebook, and other people started messaging me and wanted me to make them in the game. And that was like our origin point. It just kind of snowballed from there. Well, from there, people wanted to know, like, you know, like in universe mode and things of that nature, how they were ranking up, if their guy was going to get a shot for some title in the game. And so I was like, why don't we, you know, make this into some form of a formal group? You know, I mentioned like CAW groups, like I had seen stuff like that done before, but it was something new to me, so it would take some getting used to. So back then, way back then, we did use just the camera at first. I don't know, that's like a big no-no. So as time went on, you know, it got brought up and somebody said something about, well, I'd like to see a full match. And I said, okay. I said, well, would you guys be interested in me, you know, maybe getting like a capture card system and seeing how this works? And a lot of people were like, yeah, definitely, let's do it. So still being kind of new to it, still not knowing how long this was going to last, you know, if people were going to continue to be interested in it. The first thing I went lowball on it, and I got just like a basic Roxio game capture, and I didn't realize that it had to run through my PC, and my PC, the RAM on it and everything, the video card wasn't quite up to par, so it was a little laggy, and it had a couple issues. And that's probably like the early stuff, if you were watching some of the 2K14 stuff, where some of it might look kind of choppy, and, you know, and by all means, I can understand criticism around things like that. Well, after that, I'm probably one of the few people who went in this direction, but I made a point to go ahead and get Xbox One and get 2K15 Next Gen, and that's why the video quality and everything looks different now, is that it's actually being recorded through, I believe it's a Hauppauge PVR Rocket is the capture that I use now. And it doesn't, you can run it through the PC, but you don't have to. I just actually record it directly onto a flash drive and then just edit it off flash drive.
Okay, alright. Now, with ECW, you've been doing it for a little bit now. Who are some of the guys who are in ECW that maybe some people who don't know ECW or don't know only a little bit about ECW should look out to see? Okay,
that's actually a good point too, because I just found out today that one of our guys, his name's Mikael Myers, but his character, his call in ECW is Aether Adamus, and his nickname is the Big Bang, Aether Adamus. But apparently, I found out today, I know he'd been in talks about it for a little while, but it's official as of today that he joined Marco Rose's YWF. So I guess he'll probably be the first guy from ECW current that people might recognize elsewhere, and if they go back and forth or they do a little bit of talking to him or even a little bit of digging around, maybe they'll kind of connect the dots there. Other than that, one of the things that's kind of cool about our group that I guess I'll give those guys a little shout out on. AJ Hawks is one of our guys. He's been with us since last summer, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
His name's Anthony Hauser. AJ Hawks is actually his real ring name. He wrestles for a couple outfits up around northern Indiana and up around Chicago. And then another guy that's been with us since the beginning, his call is McNasty Bones, which is also based off of his real life gimmick, but he's actually a heel manager down here in Southern Illinois for a group called Outlaw Wrestling. So there's a couple guys like that. They double is what they do. So it's kind of cool to see that they are actually working in real life as well in the wrestling industry. But other than that, Brandon kind of hit on him a little bit. Ryan Asriel is kind of one of our monster heel guys. He's been around the group for a while, and if people start watching ECW moving forward, he's a guy definitely keep an eye on. He's getting ready to take off and go places in his own way. And,
All right. Now, is ECW, is it like COH in the fact that all the characters are different people? Are there any original characters, like maybe some that you made that, aren't a real person, but it's just an original creation? Like, what kind of format is ECW?
Okay. Well, originally, going back to like the beginning again, originally, it was before I started like introducing like some of my friends' characters and whatnot into it. Originally, it was like all original characters. Mm-hmm. That's where like the whole like ECW El Dorado Championship Wrestling thing came from. Was like I want to say WWE 13. I was just doing a universe mode, and I just made like I think I had like 60 or 70 all original characters, barring myself and a character people might be familiar with if they follow the group. The Judge. The Judge is actually my real life cousin, and me and him have done all forms of call and whatnot throughout the years together. So there's like a long history between our characters, even before this became a thing. For the most part, it started with more original characters, and then as more people became interested in joining, it became more of, I guess you could say, real people being their characters. Mm-hmm. And at this point, that's pretty much what it is. The only exception is there might be like one or two people who have like a secondary character that they use, and then I have like a character, a call created like for my son that I use, and I basically more or less try to kind of manage him. Right. And exclude myself from matches. That way it's not, some people kind of frown upon like the owner being in all these main event matches and being in matches over people left and right and whatnot. So I try to use him and put him, kind of interchange him here and there, different things.
All right. With your guys' roster, are you guys currently looking for people, or are you guys very content with your roster? And if you're looking for people, is there anyone in particular you'd want to join ECW?
That's actually something that I've been meaning to ask around about, but not to try to be awkward with.
Right.
Obviously, right now we're still wrapping up our stuff on 2K15, so we can't do a whole lot with increasing our roster yet. But as far as when we get 2K16 rolling, hopefully it'll be sometime this fall. We're usually right around time starting, like I guess what you call our new season. Mm-hmm. Usually around Christmas, somewhere around Christmas, maybe a little after Christmas, hopefully a little before, but it just kind of depends on how fast we get things out. As far as that goes, what we call year 3, which will basically be like our 3rd season. Absolutely. With the roster cap in the game going back up to like 100 call slots, I'm looking at right now, I think we're setting it, if people who have been interested and stay interested pan out, we're looking at, we might be somewhere in the 30 to 40 number right now. But I would absolutely love to increase our cap to like at least 50 or 60 people. And I've talked to anybody, who has talked to anybody in our group or anybody from my group who's going to be listening, because I know a lot of the guys are pretty excited to hear this interview. I talk to them frequently. There's a lot of guys from COH and other feds. If, say for like yourself, Shawn, wasn't bogged down with other things,
Right.
I wouldn't any problem with, sending out an invite or, saying, hey, would you want to join? Like I said, I just didn't want to, I know I'm in the COH group, but I'm not actually a member of the COH roster. Not to like intrude and be awkward and say, make a post, hey, come join my group. And then, that's just like a total asshole move. So like, thinking about, trying to, I guess, make inroads, but do it the right way.
Yeah. Now, you did note how you're on the COH page, and I've seen you on the COH page sometimes in the comments and whatever and all the nonsense that goes on over there. But why haven't you joined Call of Honor?
Yeah, about that. I actually believe you actually had, when Travis had opened up like, a form of recruiting not that long ago, I think you tagged me in a comment.
I did, yeah.
And I remember that, and I hadn't forgot about it. And, Mikhail, our guy that's joined YWF, I was actually talking to him about this today. And, I guess it's more of like, wanting to do things, all the way instead of doing things half-assed. I want to be able to make sure, I don't want to be that guy that says he doesn't have time to do anything. That's number one. Everybody, it gets talked about everywhere, whether it's call shoot, whether it's on here. Nobody wants to be that guy who just says like, oh, sorry guys, I can't promo today, I'm just too busy. Or, something stupid like that. Especially being in the quote unquote owner role, how frustrating that is. So that's the first thing. If I want to do it, I want to be able to do it and, actually contribute to it and be a bigger part of it, and, the other thing, and this is where I keep going back and forth on with myself personally, is obviously coming into something like Call of Honor, I would not be the same character that I am in my Fed. So I would have to look at it and say, what kind of gimmick would I want to be and things of that nature. And I guess really where that comes down to for me, and this would go for joining any of the Feds out there, I guess COH being the first one that comes to mind, it'd be something that would have to be discussed with like Travis or someone, because my thing is, I don't feel like I'd have to come in and win a championship or anything like that. None of that really is that important to me. I'd rather be there to maybe put over somebody who needs that extra push to get over, to work with people. And it would depend on, if he wants me to be like a face or a heel, or, basically where I'm needed at. Because that's the kind of role that I like to be in. That's why I've had so much fun with ECW isn't really for myself. My payoff is seeing other people, when they pop because they won something and they got something, they won a big match versus this person, or they won that championship. And, if I would be the person putting that other person over in something like COH, that would make me feel like I've done my part. So it's a couple different things, and it's not something that I've ruled out. I don't want anybody to think that like, I'm just like lurking. I don't try to like intrude in a lot of people's like promos and stuff. I know some people just kind of like jump in comments on promos. I usually just try to kind of step back and watch and maybe like a comment or like a promo if it sticks out to me. But yeah, it's not something that I've completely ruled out. Obviously I don't want it to be something like I completely get out of call at one point and then wish I would have done COH. It's something that like I said, I still think about quite often.
Maybe one day it'll happen, and if it does, awesome. If it doesn't, it's whatever. It doesn't need to. If it's not meant to be, then it's not meant to be. But I do like how, you said that you'd want to come in and like to, help people out, because a lot of people, and this is actually rather annoying, especially for me, because like you said, me being a call-in and stuff, a lot of people like to come in and they think they're a lot bigger. They think they're these stars over call, and they're like, I want to go and I want to win the world title. I want to fight the face of the company. And it's like, who are you? And I mean, I've never been like that. I mean, if people see, I'm very involved in a lot of processes, like with my own show, with COH, with calls, all these things. And if you look at COH, the majority of my career, I've been in tag team. So I've never, been like, oh, I got to be that guy, because I find that those people know who they are, to be a little bit annoying.
Well, like the thing is that like I guess like a lot of those people don't understand from, like, I guess the owner's side of the story is a lot of those people will come in and make those claims, but then they'll expect the owner to actually create the opportunity for them and push them to the championship. And then if they leave, they leave or something, they don't give you the owner a heads up or, whatever it might be, or they just, they don't feel like promoing for any reason. It really hurts everybody. I mean, and it kind of makes the owner look stupid because, that guy promised you that he was going to be your guy and he's no longer there, so.
Oh, yeah. Now, promos, that's some interesting there. I saw ECW, you guys do video promos, correct?
Yes, mainly. I tell people, we also started using Twitter a little bit,
I like that.
Shot Twitter and then posting it. And I was putting them like into the show occasionally. I haven't recently, but I was there for a little bit. Just trying to get people to mix it up. Some people obviously are more comfortable just typing, but prefer, especially with trying to make like the shows look better, like video promos. I feel like they click better. You can put them before a match or whatever. And so I guess video promos would be like the number one preferred thing.
Oh yeah, and especially I know you're on 2K15, so doing audio promos is not exactly an option because the story designer isn't in the game.
Yeah, I know that was like a big thing for a lot of people that like kind of broke the deal for them, but I don't know. They said it's coming back hopefully next year, so I mean you never know.
Hopefully next year. I mean, how have you been managing without story designer? Because I know me and COH and actually a lot of other call shows for that reason didn't make the switch.
Well, it was kind of interesting because like I had never really used story designer until 2K14, and at first I was still kind of like I don't know because like I tried using it in 2K13 or WWE13, excuse me, and I guess I was like overthinking it and I overcomplicated what I was trying to do with it. I was like, I don't really know if I want to use this mode or not. Well, a guy that's not in our group anymore, he actually was the one who had mentioned it to me. He was like, why don't you use story editor for something occasionally? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I've tried it before and I really don't know if I liked it or not. So I went ahead and tried it for a couple things. And it started off small, and by the end of our 2K14, our first season stuff, there's actually a lot more story editor used in it. Like I know, like our WrestleMania, which would I guess be like COH's Ultimate Glory.
Yeah.
Like I put a lot of editing into that. Like probably the most I put into anything, and I was like, that actually turned out pretty good for my standards at least. Maybe not for somebody else's, but I was like, actually pretty good. It was like it was a milestone for me. But I honestly always have been a fan of the universe mode, and even though like sometimes it's kind of wonky with the way it makes a random cutscene happen, and sometimes it gets kind of glitchy with it, I mainly still just use universe mode. It's easy for me to manage. It has a calendar built in, and that's what I go by. Like if you see my stuff get posted to groups or whatever on Facebook, that's why it says like we're in June right now, but it's not really June present day. Or we're in June on the calendar of the game, and that's just how I run our seasons because it clicks together for me. It tracks like records as far as titles and stuff go for you, and fingers crossed they fix it and it becomes a bigger thing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the rivalry system will click better with something like the story editor in a future game. I have a lot of faith in 2K. I think a lot of people kind of gave them a hard knock because they took things out of 2K15, but I believe them when they said that it was them basically laying a new foundation for the series. And the little things that they have fixed in 2K15 are the things that sell me. Like the fact that if you get a knife edge chop, your guy actually sells a knife edge chop and doesn't just stand there like he never got hit. So it's very little things. Like I feel like I've seen like I think it was Eddie Mack from CCL that shared the Creation Suite trailer to Video Game Network today, and I commented on it. A lot of people who seem like before they might have been not a fan of 2K15, they seem like they're really excited for 2K16 now. So like I said, fingers crossed it's going to keep going up for the 2K series now that they're at the helm.
Yeah, and that leads me to my next question. Like, with 2K16 coming out, there's a lot of excitement. There's a little bit of disappointment because there's no story designer. That was one of the things that has not been brought back. But a lot of cool things are being brought to the game, and I think a lot of people either are looking forward to switch to the game or feel like they have to, or once they took down the servers for 2K14, they're like, oh, well, I gotta switch. So
I know that was like a big shock too, and I was kind of shocked by it myself. But I was like, I guess it's kind of like a necessary step forward for evolution for them to eventually kind of let go of the past in a way. So I don't know.
Mhm. So, yeah. So, what are your thoughts on 2K16 with what they've put out so far?
Okay, keeping it sort of correlated, knowing that like I think Travis is going to 2K16,
Yeah.
and he's got like some people who are very skilled, like Scott, with doing the flyers and stuff like that for the shows. For people who didn't really dig into 2K15 Next Gen, the logo editor is going to be like an amazing thing for something like COH. People being able to have like pretty much any logo they want, like on their shirt or their tights. Like, it's crazy because all you have to have is basically like Photoshop or GIMP or any kind of photo editing program, and you can make your own logos and import them to the game. The facial scanning stuff wasn't really bad in 2K15. We've used a lot of that and the custom logos. So I'm looking forward to being able to take things like custom logos and implement it into the newly refined Create Arena. Because now you can actually have, like one of the things I'm planning on doing, I'm sure other people will probably maybe do, is put like your YouTube link or your Facebook link or whatever on like your ring apron or like different parts of your arena, and it's just like free advertisement.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool things. I saw that Creation Suite video actually right before this, and there's a lot of cool things that are going to be in the game. So, although it does suck that there's no store designer, hopefully with all these things we can work around it.
Yeah, I think for like, it might become kind of like redundant for people after a while, but I mean, it is a video game. There's only so much we can do in video games at times. Obviously, at some point, I think we're going to see every story designer cutscene in one way or another. But I think one thing that is going to help with 2K16 for people who go to it is that new break-in thing where you can interrupt entrances.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people who have a really creative mind can run wild with that. So that, and like I said, the things like actually just being able to fine-tune, like you can even use like the custom logos for like tattoos and stuff.
Yeah.
So, for once in Call Wrestling, not everybody's going to have the same tattoos if you really want. So, I mean, it's getting to a point now because the technology is allowing us to that you can really do almost whatever you want. I wouldn't say you can do whatever you want, but, there's a lot more options there. And as far as like the story designer goes, I know it's a big break for a lot of people, but like, it's, kind of asks people just to kind of hold on just a little bit longer because like somebody tweeted them about it and they tweeted back and the response was they wanted to do it this year, but they didn't want to half-ass it. So they wanted to make it something huge or something big or something like that. And that's why they're waiting, like I said, hopefully just another year. Maybe that's the big thing they're going to work on for the next game. And you don't know at this point, but usually by this time when the game's almost ready to ship, they've already started working on the next game. So, we all might get really lucky next year.
Well, we can only hope so. Now, one thing that, and it is particularly the reason why this is happening, is 2 episodes ago I had Brandon Wolf on the show, and Brandon Wolf used to be in ECW, and we definitely got the impression from what he said. He's no longer in the show, and things didn't end, we'll say, smoothly. Is that accurate, or?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I feel like it's complicated, but I don't think it's as complicated as the way he put it. That's where like I had run into an issue because at first like I was listening to it on the way to work and I'd stopped, and then one of the guys in my group was like, he didn't even mention us. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, okay. So I went back and started listening to it again, and then I heard his comments, and I'm like, oh wow, so he took a lot of exception to pinning it all on me. I was like, oh, okay. So I felt like something needed to be said,
Yeah, there definitely was mention of ECW. It wasn't very positive though.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can certainly understand from your side, you're hearing all these negative things said about ECW, and I'm not saying what's right or wrong because I wasn't there. Wolf gave his side of the story.
I absolutely appreciate it. I honestly appreciate that especially because this is the internet we're talking about and social media. It's easy for people to, for lack of better terms, bandwagon onto something like that. And I mentioned this somewhere like in a YouTube comment. I feel like I have respect for Brandon. There's no ill feelings, and I don't plan on turning this into me trying to mudsling him or drag him down in any way. But, I do appreciate that, like, it just didn't turn into, like, a group attack on me or on ECW for whatever reason it could have been. So, hey, I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, some comments were said, but before we get to that, like, let's get your side. What happened? Was Brandon Wolf leaving or getting fired or quitting or whatever the story is from ECW?
Okay, so let me go back a little bit here, because why he actually told me he was leaving not so much had much to do with him personally. There were a couple other people in the group I guess he was friends with, and for the sake of the record here, I'll say who they were. I believe one kid's name was Dylan James, and the other one was Preston Pierce. I think that's their names. Mm-hmm. They were brought in, I think, by somebody else. It was just a random thing. People need to understand, and I see stuff like this in COH too. I said, most everybody in these groups are friends. Friends joke around with each other. Friends make jokes. It happens. Sometimes people, I don't know, maybe their sense of humor's off. Maybe they don't understand things. Jokes get taken the wrong way sometimes. One thing that we do, we haven't done it in a little while, but one thing we do off and on, like, you've heard of Kayfabe News, of course.
Yes.
Satire site. We started writing what we called dirt sheets, which were basically satirizing ourselves as just a running joke, like ribbing each other. Well, there was this big mix-up where when Dylan and Preston came into the group, one of them wasn't, like, talking to anybody on Messenger, and they hadn't promoed, and it was just really awkward, and we were like, hey, why are you not promoing, or why are you not talking to us, because basically we have a big Facebook Messenger group chat set up where we just, like, bullshit out of character about, like, Raw and other things, just whatever, It's basically a way for us to distinguish, like, our group is mainly for promoting. This is if you want to talk out of character to everybody else, get to know people. So anyway, well, every time one of them was asked why they weren't doing anything, the other person spoke for them. And it was like, well, why can't he just speak for himself? And I was like, oh, his internet's messed up or something. I don't know. It was always something like that. So a dirt sheet popped up that implied that they were the same person using fake accounts. And it led to them leaving. I guess they got really offended by it, but it was meant as a joke. It wasn't meant as anything personal towards anybody. It was just a total joke based off this awkward situation. Well, later, way down the road, this is getting towards the end of, like, our first year stuff, going into, like, we were getting ready to transition to 2K15. Brandon Wolf had come full circle and went from being this kid in, like, our, I just use the WWE programs just to make it easy on everybody, using our NXT developmental program, being a guy who was in some decent feuds, but never was really there. This is Brandon. To Ryan Asriel at the time was the hardcore champion on our main show. Ryan did a basic open challenge thing, if you're man enough, step up and fight me. It wasn't nothing crazy, but it got the point across. Brandon cut a video promo going after Ryan Asriel, and everybody jumped at this. Like, whoa, Brandon Wolf stepped up. This is huge. This kid had, like, instant momentum from it. He was built up all the way. He fought Ryan off and on, won the title at one point, lost the title, and won, like, a number one contenders match on our WrestleMania pre-show to face Ryan. Even did the cut scene of Ryan coming out with the title around his waist and mocking him and pointing him and doing, like, a cutthroat motion.
Yeah.
Had this big build-up, like, okay, they're going to fight. The plan was Brandon was going to feud with him and beat him for the championship at the next pay-per-view on 2K15. And that was going to be Brandon's, like, crowning moment. And that was going to set him off. And honestly, if he wouldn't have left, it's kind of hard to say, but he might have been inching closer to, like, the world championship picture by the end of the next year if he wouldn't have quit. Because he was, like, on a rocket at that point, and everybody was behind him. Like, our group has, right now, like 28 members, I think, on Facebook. He cut a promo that had like 10 likes on it. And that's huge for a small group like us. It's like half the group.
Yeah.
So, anyway, he messages me like in the middle of setting up like our first show or something for 2K15. And he's like, yeah, I'm basically out. You know, I'm like, whoa, hold on. You're in the middle of this big program with a big guy, you know, and you're going places. Why are you quitting on me? And he explained that it had something to do with all of that. And I'm like, dude, that was like way in the past, and it was a joke anyway. And he was just like, nah, you know, I'm just done with it. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're really done, then I guess I can't stop you. You know, your mind's made up. And that was that. He mentioned things about he didn't like the way his call looked. He did send pictures of both gens, and multiple times had requested changes for the way his call looked. And I always got around to updating stuff like that. Like, he didn't like the placement of a logo. Moved it over for him, sent him a picture back. You know, anybody who has been in ECW can verify that, you know, and I know it's a big deal for some people. They really care about how their call looks and stuff like that. I know it's kind of a thing for some people, but, you know, from the owner's perspective, you have to do your part too and promo more, and he didn't always do that part. So it was kind of, I guess there was just a disconnection there somewhere in the midst of all that. But as far as the one comment he made about him losing a match, I think he said by count out in like 1 to 2 minutes. I went back and looked at every match he had with Ryan Asriel just to double check my facts, and his shortest match was like 10 minutes. So his facts are just off, and that's the thing that bugged me the most, you know. If you're going to say something negative about somebody, sure. If you don't like somebody, sure, I get all of that. But at least get your facts straight.
Yeah, nobody likes when the facts aren't straight. Now, clearly, when Brandon Wolf said these things, I mean, obviously you, and fully expected, took exception to that because of what was said, and felt like, well, this isn't exactly either the truth or how things went or whatever. And then in the comments, obviously, you voiced your opinion. So did some other members of the ECW roster. So some of these things that were brought up were about how, I mean, some comments were made about how ECW made Brandon Wolf. I mean, you later clarified that you're not saying that ECW made him, but you took him. You say here ECW took a generic Brandon Wolf and made him into a likable character. Are you still believe that? Not that you made him, but you made kind of like the Wolf character what it is today.
Well, yeah. I guess to kind of clarify on that, to my understanding, it was before he was getting ready to leave that he had went to like COH. Mm-hmm. And I'll put it like this, and I know you've been in call, as far as like call groups and stuff go, way longer than I have, so you'll know where I'm kind of coming from here with this. When Brandon came into ECW, this was his kind of promoing, and, you know, I'll let you express your opinion on it, and other people, whether they agree or disagree, you know, it's still obviously a thing because there's still other people who've come into our group and pulled the same kind of typing text promo. You know, the promo would be like this. In parentheses, the lights come up in a dim arena and the camera zooms in on Brandon Wolf. And then there's the actual promo, you know, the lights go down and the camera fades. And that was the promos, and I'm like, you know, you don't need all that stuff in parentheses, you know. Most people reading this have an imagination. Mm-hmm. You know, and over time, you know, the promos that were there, they would get better, and they'd get better, and then finally, and I want to think it was Ryan Ardinger, which is Ryan Asriel, I want to think he was the one who convinced him to do the video promo, and that was the thing that struck me, because, like, that was it. Like, he cut that first video promo, and for people who aren't sold on, like, video promos, or even, like, you could say, like, in COH and stuff, like, the audio promos, which, in their own right, are still basically a video promo, it's just using the calls in the story editor. Audio promos will always be the text promo because there's emotion there that you cannot type.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're not watching WWE programming or whatever programming you watch on TV and reading their promos. You're watching them in the ring, acting it out and speaking it, and you can just relate to that so much more. I said, this kid came and, like, cut this video promo and just captivated everybody. And we're like, why weren't you doing this from the beginning, man? You just, if you want to use emotion and use props or whatever you want to use, just video promo. And to my knowledge, when he first joined COH, he wasn't video promoing. It took him a little bit to video promo there, too.
Yeah.
So that's why those comments were made. No, I didn't create Brandon Wolf. ECW didn't create him. But I felt like we helped kick him into gear and get his confidence up to where he wasn't camera shy.
All right. Some other comments that were made just by Anthony Hauser here. He says the only reason that Wolf doesn't credit ECW was helping is because he was butthurt that he got let go, which you clarified that he wasn't let go, but he quit. And then how Brandon Wolf thinks he's the hottest shit. When he came to ECW, apparently he was a little mouse, and ECW definitely had something to do with getting his confidence out there. That I mean, I would think so because based on what you said, but is that accurate to say that ECW helped with his confidence there?
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, we all anytime like a promo goes up in our group or whatever, you know, somebody's likely to jump into our group chat and say something. You know, myself personally, I go out of my way to talk to everybody in the group one-on-one and give them like my input on it. You know, we're all very open in criticizing each other about things. You know, one of the things I get criticized on when I post stuff is like if I'm posting something like a promo, I go too long a lot of the times. And it's cool. It's something that's you're always working on, you know, to try to round off those things and get better. But it was one of those things. A lot of us in the group who have a lot of input and have opinions, we were all working together with Brandon to try to, like, you know, make him this big deal. Ryan Ardinger, or Ryan Osriel, for people that don't know the name but know the character, the reason he was working with Brandon and was like absolutely on fire about Brandon taking that championship from him, because he thought that Brandon Wolf could be like the next big face. He was like, I put him over, this kid's going to go to the moon. You know, and I was like, yeah, sure. And, you know, that was how it went. Like I said, he came in and he was relatively unknown. He was just another guy, you know. That's how, you know, you can say the same thing about some guys in COH, some guys in other feds. It happens everywhere, you know, especially when you get a large group of people. You know, I heard a lot of people say before in COH, that's how Slam used to be. There was a lot of guys who just nobody really stepped up. Well, this was him breaking from that mold of people and stepping up. And, you know, and we did. We all worked on him, and we all believed in him to get him to that point. And, you know, and like I said, I don't have the ill will for him. The whole grudges and harbor things like that over something like Call is silly.
Right.
That's why I feel like, why is he so bitter towards me over this? I don't get it. He's never met me in real life. He doesn't know me from anybody down the street. But, you know, I understand, you know, some people take it a little bit, I guess, more personally than others do. I mean, I'm just trying to have fun and make new friends, really, at this point, especially trying to make new friends out of it, because I like wrestling. I've been a fan of wrestling for over 20 years, you know. I love it. It's a huge thing, and Call is just an extension of it, and it's great to have those people to bullshit with and have fun with it through. So to see somebody that got so bitter over it kind of makes me like, man, you know, maybe you need to take a step back and look at it in a different light, because it's not that serious. As far as him getting let go and how that was all worded, he did quit. There was no him getting fired or let go. Now, he was removed from the group because he had no further use in the group after he quit. So maybe that's why he thought he got fired, but it was all stemming because he made the choice to leave. And as far as all of that goes, I think he thought he got blocked from the group or something, which wasn't true. The group is, I found out today that I guess YWF is a quote-unquote secret group on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I had set the group a while back to be a secret group, not because I don't want people in it, but because it helps, when we bring new people in, it helps get them more in gear once they become a part of it, and it helps keep like spam and fake bots and stuff like that out, because that's still a thing. I don't know how that's still a thing on Facebook, but it is. But it just keeps like cluttered down. Like one of the things like with COH, and this isn't like a criticism. I don't want like Travis or anybody to think I'm like taking shots at them. The thing is like a new person comes in and they haven't had a match, or somebody comes in, like you can even say like myself, and if this is something that would get me removed until I became a part of the roster, I could completely understand that from this perspective. There's a lot of people who comment on promos. There's a lot of people who don't have matches, and sometimes they take away from the kayfabe. And, you know, like, there's this new kid, I think his name's like Kenan or something like that, that's in COH, and he's supposed to have a match coming up, I guess. I've seen a picture of his call and seen him comment on like a bunch of stuff. But he's like so in and out of character that I feel like it's hurting him as a person and as a character. It's like, he'll comment on something like Raging Redneck posts, and Ray will just rip him to shreds in a promo on it. But he's just commenting on it out of character, like, you know, like, dude, you need to slow down a little bit, you know, before you actually get started here. I think he like even called Brandon Wolf out for like the MWE championship that he holds or something on a promo. I'm like, but Travis hasn't even put your guy in a match yet, so how do you know anything that you're doing? And it's just stuff like that. It's little things. Like, that's why, like, we try to, like I said, keep, like, the out-of-character stuff strictly to, like, Messenger. Because some people get, like, really confused when it's, like, in character, out of character, in character, out of character. And, it's just, I guess, different people, different ways of thinking. But, you know, trying to refine things is, I guess, how I look at it.
Okay. Now, one thing that particularly jumped at me was part of a comment made by a user, Let's Talk Games.
Yeah, it'd be Jeremy McGlasson.
Right, and he said, I'm not going to read everything he says, but these two lines here, people who were fired from ECW were fired for not doing their part or just being a plain asshole. One person was kicked out of ECW for acting like a pedophile, and you, sir, know who very well that person is, and you are working with him right now. Do you know the context of what he is referring to? Is that?
I do specifically. Yeah. First of all, and I'm sure this is something that's nothing new either. Occasionally, people come in, and I guess they come in for different reasons or the wrong reasons. And, you know, you think they're there, again, just to have fun and do whatever, but instead of actually trying to be a part of what your group is doing, they're just there to bring other people down. And that's what he's getting at by saying people would just being assholes or whatever. I'm sure this is probably going to stir some controversy, but it's partially what this show is about.
Yes.
So I will go ahead, because I don't have anything to hide here. The person he's referring to that made pedophile comments happened in our Messenger chat. I was at work one night when I was still working midnight, and my phone was blowing up, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I've got like my admin guys who were messaging me like livid because a few of the guys in the group, myself included, have children.
Yes.
And apparently, it wasn't just like a type thing. The guy, like I said, like in a voice message. I didn't hear the exact thing, but I'd been told about it, that someone asked him about if he likes little kids or something. I don't know how it got onto that topic because I was at work, but he said something and it just set everybody off. Now, the person that it was Gustavo Soriano. So I'm just going to go ahead and get out there. Now, like I said, no, whatever happened, actually, it was a different admin who isn't even in the group now, named Dylan Mornick, that actually removed him. It was like a group thing. All the guys were like, we just don't want that. I don't care if he was joking or not. And like I said, it happened actually when I wasn't even online at the time. So it was pretty heated, and it rubbed a lot of people wrong. Like I said, I'm sure comments like that probably haven't been made in COH. It might have been a big misunderstanding, but it pushed a lot of people's buttons in the wrong way. So.
It's a very touchy subject, and there are certain things, and there's certain touchy areas where people do make a joke out of, but that is usually one where people kind of don't mess with too much, because That's
No,
tough.
I said, like, I wish I could have had more of a hand in it. I was really caught up in work that night. I was working as a security guard, and we had a shitty night at the plant that I was working at. But I think it was like back in the wintertime, we had like a lot of snow here, is what it was. It was crazy. But I distinctly remember like popping back in and looking at my phone, and like my Facebook messengers, like I couldn't even keep up with all the messages that were coming in. And I'm like, people were like, "Whoa, where'd you go? What happened?" And we'll talk to you guys about it in a minute. Hold on. Flip over to the other chat. They're all like livid and cussing about it. Like, what the hell, dude? I'm like, guys, I have no idea what's going on. Somebody needs to slow down and tell me what's going on. And it was a huge ordeal.
Wow. So Gustavo, he made certain comments about that were, suggested, him being a pedophile or interested in that. Were they direct? Do you know of if they were directed specifically at anyone, or they were just general comments?
It was like a general comment. I don't think it was actually, again, like, it's not like any of us knew him personally, but something that was brought up. He said something, and somebody heard him, I guess, say something. It was something about liking little kids or something of that nature, and it stood up a red flag, and somebody was like, "Wait, what did you say? Did you say that?" And he said, "Yeah." And that just kind of tipped everybody over the tip of the iceberg at that point. Like, it was one of those things. It was like when you hear people say, if one person says it, all right, it might just be a rumor.
Right.
But when everybody agrees on it, then it's a different story.
Yeah.
And like I said, at that point, he was already gone. I had no hand in it, so I was like, well, I guess I got to go with the village here.
Got to make a tough call, but with something like that, I don't blame you at all.
Right. Like I said, and I don't want, and again, like he might listen to this, and I don't want him to think that this is me trying to throw him under the bus with what's going on with him, like in COH or MWE or whatever. Like, I'm completely past that shit. I don't even care. It could have just been a miscommunication. Like I said, this is the internet. This is social media. It could be a lot of things. But, that's what happened, and that was that story. And I know, I guess, you and other people aren't in ECW. I don't know if I know he made some comments on that YouTube video, the episode with Brandon, but I don't think he's really said anything out of his way, like on Call Shoot or anything. But in case anybody was hearing him say things like, "Oh yeah, ECW sucks," and especially Ryan, kind of referencing Brandon there, that's what happened with him from my side of it. So.
Okay. All right. Well, good to clear that up, because I'm sure there were others who, not just me, who might have seen that and had some questions about that.
Right. I said, like, my intention, like, I'll be honest with you, like, first, when I messaged you about this, I thought about it. For a while, I told people this a lot today. I wanted to be a guest on the Shawn Walsh show. I started listening to it a lot when I was still working security, and I listened to most of the first season stuff, and I was, like, really intrigued by it. I liked hearing the different, people that's been in call for a long time. I'm like, if I would have known about this stuff, like in 2008, I probably would have been in, like, COH or something back then. Because I've been into the same circle, just not, actually involved in it to the degree that other people have. I've played all the games, except for maybe a couple of them that have had call and stuff in them. So, I was like, I wanted to be a part of this just to, just to kind of bullshit about the stuff, for one. Number two, I know a lot of people who don't know our ECW, because I know the other ECW is way huger than us, and that's cool. I understand. I wanted people to kind of be able to kind of peel back the curtain on us and, I don't know, maybe pique some people's interest that would want to join later. That's one of my big things is, like I said, I want to lay some inroads and get to know some people better. And, there's several characters within COH, if not just the characters, the minds behind the characters that I would love to have a part of our roster. But as far as other stuff, anything with controversy, things that's happened like that, Gustavo, Brandon Wolf, or just anything in general with ECW, since we are kind of an unknown quantity, I just wanted to be transparent with people. Otherwise, I'm just a name that you see, like you said, you see me occasionally on the COH page or Call Shoot page or something.
Yeah.
And that doesn't tell you anything.
All right. Now I'll ask this. With how things went, if in the future, let's say, Brandon Wolf moves forward. Would there ever be a chance that Brandon Wolf could return to ECW, or would that be something that wouldn't happen?
Yeah, that's something I actually thought a lot about today too. Like I said, when I first originally messaged you, I was kind of caught up in his comments, and I guess I was kind of like a little angry then. I shouldn't have been, but I was like, I started talking to people more about it. I think I did most of my venting to the guys in my group about it, and that was probably best instead of coming on here and just like completely trying to bury him or something, because that's not cool. And I do want to say that like I am proud of him that he's doing well. He like won the Money in the Bank at the Call All Stars. And it looks like he's doing well in COH and stuff. I think that's great for him. Like I said, I don't think he's a bad kid. I just think he was maybe confused or got mixed signals. And that could have been our fault too. I'm not going to say it wasn't. But, things happen. As far as him coming back, I thought about it today, and there's a couple people who are wanting to come back or who have come back, and they've been here like 2 or 3 times. Maybe things didn't work out before they come back again. There was one guy who actually lives around here locally, who knows a couple of the other guys in the group, who's here at the beginning, and he got rubbed wrong, and I guess I want to say it was like all over like something silly like booking or something, but he ended up taking it very personally and making comments about me and my wife, and even said something to the group where my son was born that it doesn't matter because ECW is going to be done when his son gets here anyway. He won't care about it anymore. And but he got to come back for a second run with us. So if somebody like that, I can get over it, I wouldn't see why I couldn't have Brandon Wolf come back. Now, with Brandon, the only thing with him coming back is I don't think he should be able to come back I think he said it like in that video he posted in Call Shoot or something. I don't know. He might have said it on here. If not, he said it there. He said he would come back just to feud with one guy, beat that guy, and then leave again. I don't think that would happen because that just doesn't do anything for anybody. But if you come back and, maybe have an open mind, there's no need for me to say, no, Brandon, I don't like you, you can't come back. That just makes me look like a dick, and I don't want to be that guy.
All right, now, how about, this one might be a little bit different, Gustavo.
I guess as far as that goes, it's definitely worth asking. I'd have to work on that because obviously one person to lose several people wouldn't really be a gain. But at the same time, maybe if myself and a couple people talk to him one-on-one and maybe try to figure out if that was just a miscommunication, figure out if it was something maybe we just didn't understand. It could have been a lot of things. I don't know. I don't see why the door can't be left open. Because it was such a weird situation, but it's something that would be a little bit more, I guess, complicated in making it happen. Okay, alright. Sounds fair. Let's do some name association here. Throw a couple names around, give some thoughts. Travis Sparks. Travis? Let me ask you a question first. How long has Travis been doing COH? 3-4 years?
Travis has been doing COH, I believe, since 2011.
Right. Well, like I said, COH is, I guess, what they pay attention to the most. So I have a lot of respect for Travis. Like I said, I wouldn't mind eventually being a bigger part of COH instead of just being like a spectator. I'm just trying to figure out, where I would fit in and how to get that ball rolling and try to figure out what we need to do. As far as something like that goes, Travis is a guy because I really like a lot of what he does with COH. I don't know if he does most of the booking himself or if there's other people that contribute into the booking, but I like a lot of what he does. Sometimes he gets some criticism. I know, I was listening to the Ultimate Glory podcast that you guys did, and there's a couple matches here and there. Somebody was like, I wasn't really a fan of the way that one went or whatever, but I feel like him, anybody else who's been in the owner, booker, whatever chair, it's probably the most underappreciated part of it all. It's easy. Yeah. It's easy for you to get blamed when things go wrong, but nobody wants to be like, man, you spent a lot of hours last night working on that video. Or, hey, thanks for taking all this time to make 50 calls, or downloading everybody's guys and making sure they look cool, and whatever. I mean, not. I feel like I'm a pretty humble person. I don't like to toot my own horn about stuff. Yeah, Travis, like I said, I don't know, I guess a lot of people in call like that. Like, I know Travis personally, but, I would absolutely, be completely open to working with him, COH or anything down the road as far as that goes.
Okay. How's about, Ray Geddes?
Ray, I want to say, I think Ray, kind of funny tidbit here, I guess. I think Ray is actually older than I am. But, I know one of the older guys as far as call goes, but, Ray, I honestly, until recently, COH, I had always known of him and stuff, but I had never actually seen any of the promos, heard people talking a lot about the promos and all that. So I knew there was a lot of hype around it. I was like, okay, this has got to be pretty good. And, my first Ray Geddes experience was, him attacking Zane LaFontaine and Patriot at Ultimate Glory 4. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. I was like, talk about an entrance for a guy into your group or your company or whatever. I was like, that was pretty cool. And then, even a couple of our guys, that I had mentioned before, McNasty Bones or Kyle McNeil in our group that isn't really into Caw, but he's really just an institution in our group. And he's even a guy who is a worker, a wrestler in real life, you could say. I showed him one of the promos he cut on Patriot, this was back, I guess, before the Guerrilla Warfare, because that was around the time when I was watching most recently, and they were like, dude, this guy can really promo. So yeah, Ray, he's a cool guy to talk to. I've had a couple of conversations with him here and there, on Messenger and on Call Shoot and stuff. He seems very level-headed about everything, which is always good. And he's definitely a guy. I know he's really big into the audio promo stuff right now, so I think that would be a barrier. But he's a guy, if I had to make a list of people, I'd absolutely love to have him in ECW eventually.
All right. How about AJ Young?
AJ, I actually haven't had a lot of talks with AJ. I did listen to the podcast with him. And I am also in the DZW group, and I've watched some DZW. I couldn't name episodes specifically, but I like the stuff he does with DZW. I like the production. Like I said, I'm really big on a lot of the editing that a lot of you guys do, and his is one that sticks out to me. I like it. As far as the AJ Young character, I liked the Caleb Blair feud in COH. I thought that was really good. Mm-hmm. And it's the funny thing, I guess, for me with AJ, because I haven't really seen him in a lot of other feds, is it's hard for me to see him as a heel. So
really,
I think that's interesting. Yeah, I keep hearing about how he was this really good heel, and I'm like, I need to do some more homework then, because I'm looking back at the one COH promo around the draft show that a lot of people really hyped up, and I ended up seeing it. I'm like, that was a really good promo. And he's another guy that I think does really good stuff. And like I said, I feel like I'm such an outsider at times, because a lot of you guys have known each other probably for a couple years or more, or even a year or so. But I'm this guy who's just seeing all this from the outside, and I'm like, you kind of start looking at people and you're like, that's someone like that is someone that I wouldn't mind working with on something in the future.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I've known AJ since 2009, and
right.
And the thing that's actually pretty interesting, because I mean, it's weird because AJ is very well known for his heel work. COH was really the first place to do AJ Young as a babyface, but
right. That's kind of what I understood, I guess, from that interview podcast you did with him, because that's the first place I had heard that, and I was like, that's really weird. And like I said, but you got to think too, I started watching COH and following it, I think probably around the last Ready to Rumble was when I first started watching. So I've missed a lot. And and that's one of the things I had a couple ideas on about trying to get people caught up, maybe who don't have, as much free time to watch and stuff, because that's one of the things going back a little ways to if I was coming into COH, I don't want to be off on facts about people and stuff. You know, you don't want to cut a promo and your facts just look bad. You
Yeah.
know, you want to know if you're going to feud with somebody. Say if I was going to feud with you, I'd have to know that you were a very well established tag team champion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've been around. You know, if I came in and was just like, who's Shawn Walsh? I would look stupid.
Exactly.
You know, unless point of the promo, unless I was supposed to come in, which that would not make sense again because you're more of a heel. So, you know, it'd have to be a heel come in and even make a comment like that. So, yeah, you know, I mean, it's things like that, like trying to get the technicalities right. But yeah.
All right, yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I hope maybe sometime soon you'll see AJ as a heel. I think you'd enjoy his work. He's very good in general, but very very good as a heel.
Well, yeah. I guess wrap up on that real quick. I can see that because they say that, like, you know, as far as like being a good face or heel, it's really kind of like the same thing. If you're just really charismatic, you can do both. And that's why I try to tell a lot of people. A lot of people want to focus on things like the gimmick, like, oh, be a certain gimmick. I'm like, well, you should start by just being yourself and, you know, finding things that you really like about yourself and things you really dislike about yourself. And the things you dislike will make you a heel, and the things that you do like will make you a face. And it's really simple.
Yeah, it's true. What about Sonny, Lester Barkley?
I guess as far as the Lester Barkley character goes, I've seen a lot of the criticisms, and I kind of agreed at first, but I think that, like, since he beat Fisk, was it for the Internet Championship or
For the
Pride
title.
Pride? Okay, it was okay. It seems like he's definitely got a lot of momentum turning now, a lot of the wheels turning. I think actually, as far as the people from COH and stuff goes, and I'm not sure like where or why, but I think Sonny was one of the first people that added me as a friend on Facebook like a while back. And I remember him like actually posting some like commercials or something that he like for himself or for COH like on our timeline before. And I didn't get a chance. I think he was like when we downloaded him off of YouTube, and at the time like I wasn't sure how to do that, but I still remember doing that. He was like, "Hey, you can use these for your show if you want." So it was kind of cool that he kind of went out of his way to reach out like that. And I know he's like got a lot of opinions and stuff on wrestling outside of Call, and it seems like he's got, you know, his opinions on Call and stuff. He seems like he's got a pretty solid mindset on a lot of the things that he talks about in that regard. But the Lester Barkley character I think has come a long way from what I understood from where it was before, and now it seems like he's really kind of figured out what he wants to do with it, and it seems like you know, like Travis and other people are backing him now. So that's definitely good. It's always cool to see people, like I said, especially being like the owner type person in the Fed. I feel like the coolest thing is watching people grow like that.
Definitely. And I think that's about it. I think that's gonna wrap it up there. Any last comments you'd like to give for the viewers?
Like I said, first and foremost, like I said, thanks again for actually having me on. I felt like I was kind of I don't know, come off as pushy, like asking to be a part of the show, but I felt like, well, if I'm going to get mentioned by name, then, you know, I needed to at least come on so I'm not just a straw man that's being attacked on this other episode.
Yeah.
No, you know, I encourage people. Obviously, I know, I think I've seen AJ make a comment like on Call Shoot or somewhere before, and I completely understand and I can relate in ways. I know we're all busy people, but anybody who is interested in, you know, maybe finding out more about us, you know, we've been talking about this all day with this going down. You know, we're very interested in having more people come into ECW for our next season, program, year, whatever you want to call it. You know, that's my big thing. Like I said, I didn't want to make this all about Brandon's comments. I wanted to make this about, you know, like I said, kind of just showing everybody a little bit of who we are.
Yeah.
And that's my main thing. You know, I want people to maybe be a little bit more interested. You know, maybe somebody will go back and they'll watch one of our older episodes or something, and they'll see something they like. They'll see a character they like that they think that they like to work with. For you personally, Shawn, I thought about this off and on ever since I found the Call All Stars page before I even knew you ran it, and eventually I wouldn't even mind having our guys on the Call All Star stuff.
That'd be cool.
It's something I guess I'd have to talk to you more one-on-one about when we have more time or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm definitely open to it. I thought even as far as things like COH and stuff go, if some of the guys, since Mikkel or Aether is going into YWF, I wouldn't mind maybe bringing a couple of my guys over, and seeing how they did in COH. Maybe even like just being like their manager or something as my character. It's different things that I've thought about. So, we are, I guess, the small fish in the big pond, you could say. But definitely, I'm not a shy person. I'm pretty outgoing, and I'm always down to meet new people and, talk about call wrestling or whatever. So, I'm definitely interested to see what some people, I guess, have to say and, some feedback and stuff on this.
Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting, and just like every show, there's always feedback, good and bad. But thanks for coming on. It was really fun, and good luck with ECW.
All right, man, definitely. I said I need to get around to actually watching some AWF too, so I apologize for that. But I'm planning on trying to make time to do all of this soon. So, anyway, I appreciate you having me on again, Shawn.
Oh, not a problem at all.